Okay, in this step we're going to put the rails together. We're going to cement them together finally. So we need our two rails, we need our servo plate, and we need this little reinforcing bar that we use at the top of the rail. Now I want to be really clear before we start. We're going to cement the rails together, but we are not cementing the rails into the box. The rails are never cemented into the box. We leave the rails as a single piece that can be removed because it makes it a lot easier to work on the machine. So with that in mind, what we're going to do is take the servo plate and cement it in place between these two rails. And we're going to drop that assembly into the box that we've built. And once that's down inside, then we're going to work this support beam in, which has slightly shorter tabs, which makes that a little bit easier. But if we try to cement the rail, I find that if we try to cement the rails to the servo plate and this at the same time, it's a little bit much to hang on to because of how sort of loose that assembly is before the cement sets. So a couple of important points before we move on is that when you're looking at your rails, you want these spindles to the outsides, just like I have them now. When it comes to the servo plate, you want this part here that looks kind of like bear ears, I guess, or we can call it the edge with the most square cutouts facing away from us and situated in between the rails like this. That is the correct assembly. Spindles on the outside and the most square cutouts away from us. So what I'm going to do for cementing is I am going to actually orbit this tab here. I'm going to put cement on both sides of it. And I'm going to do the same over here. And then we're going to get them into the rails like this. Then we're going to fetch our box and get this assembly into the box and do some further cementing. And we're going to reinforce the heck out of this. This is a crucial part of the machine that needs to be strong on its own. So your little box here that we just worked on to put these perch supports on, keep it nearby. And watch me have a go at this first and then back it up and follow along. So I'm going to put a good bit of cement on both sides of this tab. And same for the other tab. I'm just going to try to move kind of quick here. Now remember, the proper orientation of this is all of those square cutouts away from me and the rail like this. We're going to insert this into the rail, let that cement squish as much as it wants. And then with a free hand I'll fetch the box. I'll use my thumb through the servo hole there to hold that plate and assemble this. Now because this assembly does rock, I like to rock it a little. Just let that cement get through. Now remember these tiny tabs on the top of the rails there? They hook into those slots at the front of the machine, the front of the box, and then the rear just drops in like this. And you may need to kind of work it into there. And then you want to inspect the front of the machine and make sure that these two slots here, which are partially covered by tape, and you may wish to excavate that so you can kind of get a good look. I'm not happy with that. That's not far enough in. So if I look inside here, I can see that that tab hasn't made it into where it belongs. Now it has. And you can examine the other side too and see that that's true. Now we have our rails inside with some cement on them. Our spindles are on the outsides, and the edge that has the 4 rectangular slots cut out of it is facing the rear of the machine. So I'm going to, in similar fashion, cement this reinforcing beam here by putting cement on both sides of its tabs. And I am going to have to gently bend plastic to get this in place, but that's okay. It's been designed with that in mind, so not hurting anything. So insert this here, and then pull this rail aside just enough to let us get this tab into its slot. Now I want you to tap the edges of the servo plate down, tap this, and then we're going to go with a reinforcing bead of cement all the way along this joint where the servo plate lives on the rail on both sides. And then we're going to move upstairs and do the same thing here, where that little reinforcing beam is. There. And then we're going to tape this again like we did before with masking tape. We want to get the sliding lid in before we do any of this. So I'm going to clear tape at the front of the machine. Clear that opening so that I can get the sliding lid in. And I'll just push it in from the front. There. We want to make sure we're holding the space for that sliding lid. Now I'll take my masking tape just behind the reinforcing beam, pull the rails toward one another, and have that tape apply some clamping pressure for us. And then right behind the spindles, I'll do the same, right there where that servo plate lives, just like that. I'll check that the sliding lid can move. It's a little bit tight actually, so I'm going to let some of this pressure off. You can see that it moves really freely before I put this piece of tape in place. We want it firm but not tight, so now I can still move that pretty easily. Now we're done. We're going to be done filling with the box for a little while here. Now we're going to set this aside for some extended drying. The rails will need to come out for more work later, but for now we need to make sure that they get cemented together really well, and we'll pop them out later when they're one solid part, and we'll finish our work. But we have plenty to do in the meantime, so let's just set this aside. If you continue working, when you get back to a step that has us bring the box out and remove these rails, please be sure that you've had at least 4 hours of dry time.